Hello, and welcome to Viva La Action, the podcast where we're talking about all things action movies. The good, the bad, and the underrated. My name is Santi, and with me as always is my regular co-host, reading off a teleprompter. It's Grayson.
Hello.
What?
The teleprompter is going too fast. I
can't read it. There's war and God. I don't know.
There you go.
That's the kind of news I would watch.
Yeah.
What's good, partner?
I don't know.
Me neither.
It doesn't seem like much is good right
now. Okay. Not much is good.
Yeah.
But you know what is good? Podcasting.
True.
Which is what we do here.
I will say that burrito we just had was good.
That burrito was very good. Good. For another local reference, because I think everybody loves a local reference.
Oh, yeah.
Twister's Burgers and Burritos.
Yep. Classic.
It's a local chain.
They have curly fries that they'll smother in chili and cheese. Mm-hmm. Oh, my Lord. And not like Texas chili, just straight up like green chili sauce.
Green chili sauce, yeah. Oh. Personal suggestion if you're coming to visit the great state of New Mexico, find yourself a Twister's.
Yeah.
Get a number 8. Get it Twister style, smothered with either green or red, depending on what you want. I'm a red fan, but a lot of people like green.
I'm a green fan.
There you go. Yeah. Anyway, that's our local reference talk.
Yeah.
Let's just get straight into the episode.
Let's do it.
Because I feel like we do too much faffing about.
That's fair.
Just fucking around.
Yeah.
Which is the point of the show, but also, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we're like, talk for about 20 minutes before we even get to the fucking topic.
Yeah. That's okay.
But what we do on this podcast is every week, we watch a movie.
Every other week.
Every other week, we watch a movie and we talk about it.
Yeah, we do.
We talk about the movie's history. Mm. We talk about its themes.
Yep.
We talk about its background.
Yep.
And we give a general review/rating of the movie. We only talk about action movies.
Yeah, we do.
And this week we talked about a stone cold certified classic.
Yeah, we did.
We watched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Classic film. It's a 1984 action adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg with a script by Willard Hook and Gloria Katz, based on a story by George Lucas. Set in 1935, Temple of Doom serves as a prequel to both Raiders of the Lost Ark and the sequel, The Last Crusade. The film stars Harrison Ford as the titular Indiana Jones, with support from Kate Capshaw, Ke Kwan, and Amrish Puri.
Nailed it.
Temple of Doom carries a 77% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes with an 82% audience score. Not as beloved as Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Last Crusade, which I think both have like a 90% audience score or something crazy.
It's still up there.
It is still up there. It's still good. I mean, you would take that.
Absolutely.
You know. The film does not pass the Bechdel test.
Not even a little bit.
There's literally a single woman.
There's one woman.
Movie.
Yeah.
And finally, the plot synopsis, which I have taken from IMDb. In 1935, Indiana Jones is tasked by Indian villagers with reclaiming a rock stolen from them by a secret cult beneath the catacombs of an ancient palace. That's pretty much the size of it. And before we get into the background of the film, the behind the scenes, all that stuff, what did you think of it?
Oh, it's so good.
It's the best.
I can't. I've lost count of how many times I've watched all of these movies. This movie, however, I didn't actually watch until much later. I had only seen Raiders and Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Because my dad was like, "We're gonna wait on Temple of Doom because it's kind of freaky."
Yeah,
and he's not wrong. The first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Yeah, if you haven't watched it yet. And you do plan to, trigger warning, there's some disturbing imagery. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. Like, by today's standards, it's not that graphic. It can be a little bit crazy, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, and we should say we're watching this because annually Grayson has a tradition of watching Indiana Jones on their birthday.
Yep.
And we have taken all the fun out of that and put it into the show.
It's still fun.
It's still fun. So that's now the show's annual tradition as well.
Yep.
Last year we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you want to go back and check that out. But this is, I don't know, I think this might be the one I've seen the second most. And I think that's only because this is the one that I feel like every time I turn on the TV and there's a movie playing, it's Temple of Doom for some reason. I think maybe it's the cheapest one.
Yeah.
And so it's easier, for them to run it all the time. But it's probably my third favorite, which is, there's a big gap between 3 and 4, especially because I haven't seen 5 yet. So
yeah, I also haven't seen 5.
But it's good. I think it has some weaknesses as compared to the other two.
Yep.
The big one being it's a pretty interesting depiction of the Indian culture and people and all that jazz. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I think as compared to Raiders, it's definitely not as strong.
No.
But I still like it. I think it's a rip-roaring good time.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great. I love Indy. His wacky hijinks that he gets up to.
Oh, yeah.
For me, Last Crusade is my favorite. I think for me, that's the strongest one. And then it's Raiders. Last Crusade feels like the most just polished and like succinct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't, same for me, there's a huge gap between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So it's good.
And I think too, there's like 2 saving graces in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think if it didn't have these things, I think it would be not as good. But I think the art direction in this movie is incredible, and I think Ke Kwan as Short Round is maybe the best sidekick in all of the movies. I think I like him more than I like Sean Connery. I just think he's so fun, and he's so lovable, and he's like this great, like, what's the word I'm looking for? This great contrast to Indy, where he's like, he's young and he's spunky and he like doesn't really have any like, technical knowledge, but he's very, smart and capable and
resourceful.
He's resourceful and he's just so cute. And he's just the best.
Yeah.
And he's hilarious.
He's very funny.
And just played with for only being, because I think Ke Kwan was like 12. Wow. Like being able to have that much like charisma as a 12-year-old is insane.
It's
like
very well. I mean, it makes sense why he won a fucking Oscar recently.
Exactly, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, I think to jump to the end of this particular segment before we start spoiling the movie, I think this is 1,000% worth a watch if you are a fan of the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah,
I would say if you're watching them all for the first time, I don't think it's like mandatory viewing.
Yeah.
If you only want to watch like, the good ones, quote unquote, you could just watch 1 and 3.
Yeah.
But I think this one, if you like those two, you'll like this one.
Yeah.
With the caveat that this is the kind of movie that, and people say this all the time, they wouldn't make anymore for good reason. It still exists. You can go watch it, but there's stuff in it where you're like,
yeah. No, there are some rough bits, but it is a product of its time.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree. Definitely worth a watch.
Yeah,
check it out
for sure. Well, let's get into the
spoily bits.
The spoily bits, the nitty gritty. And this is the Grayson just did the gritty.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Fuck.
Got him.
So I guess just to kind of start it off with this section, I think the big thing that holds this movie back is that it has a very outdated and like stereotypical depiction of India.
Yeah.
And I think that wouldn't fly anymore. It shouldn't, because it's not good. But
right.
And I think when you watch it, it's cartoonish enough that it's not like skin crawling bad, but it is not good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that makes you go, really?
Yeah, because it's got kind of that, like, I don't know. It's both the like exoticism of India, but then it's also the like reduction of the people to like a stereotype in two ways. One, in like the cartoonish villainous sense, where they're like sacrificing kids and eating monkey brains.
Yeah.
But then also they're starving and helpless and can't help themselves, and they need a big burly white man to help them. Which is kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because it does sort of imply by the end of the movie that the British are kind of doing a good thing, like civilizing this part of the world, which is like not true.
No. Fuck the British.
Yeah, fuck the British and their beans and their toast and their
spotted dick. We slammed on him last episode.
We don't need to harp on it, but yeah, I don't know. How did you feel about all that stuff watching it this time?
Yeah, it's always been a little iffy for me when I've watched this movie, especially as I got older. Because the more you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, this is a white savior type of deal.
Oh yeah.
And then the monkey brain, like that whole like dinner scene with the monkey brains and the bugs, that's always just like rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like,
right.
This is like, India's known for like some of the best food in the world. Right. You couldn't get some fucking like curry.
Right. And I think that's what it doesn't. I mean, it does bother me in the sense that it's like, you chose one of the cultures that, again, like you just said, is known for having like some of the best cuisine.
Yeah.
Like Indian food is notoriously delicious.
It's
like
so good.
And I have never eaten an Indian dish that even reminded me of like bugs or like, I don't, to me, that whole section, and I feel like I read some stuff about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were both kind of going through separate things at this time. Like George was very stressed about Star Wars and about, whatever. And Steven Spielberg had recently gone through a divorce. So it was like, I feel like there's a lot of mean-spiritedness in this movie that you don't get out of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's reflected like in that scene where it just feels mean.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like, let's make fun of this culture we don't understand.
Yeah.
In like a really just mean way. Like, I don't know, just that whole, and like I read one thing where one of the actors was saying like, the joke of the scene is supposed to be like, we're gonna feed the white people bugs and monkey brains because that's what the average white person thinks they eat in India. So it's supposed to be like a clever, like, haha. But that doesn't come across in the movie.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like
No.
It's that thing of like, you satired so hard, you came back around and you just did the thing. Like,
yeah. No, I like... Yeah, that really just didn't go over well. Mm-hmm. I didn't because I didn't even think about the implication that it could be that scenario where they're like, oh, we're gonna punk them,
right?
You know. Also, I find it fascinating that we're saying that like, oh, it's during the time the British was taking over India, and they're stealing all of the spices. Well, where are all the spices you're stealing? Right. Like if you're like all gung ho about these spices, why are you not using them?
Yeah, I don't know. How strange.
It was very odd, and that whole, we're gonna punk them. No, you're just gonna be kind of racist about it,
right? Yeah, so, and I don't know. It just doesn't. Yeah, but I think one thing that's important to point out with this, and then any movie that we talk about that has stuff like it, the movie. I'm gonna try to say this in a way that makes sense. You don't have to get mad at the movie because it already happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like a movie like this where it was literally shot 30 years ago.
40.
Or 40 years ago. Yeah. There's no reason to like be mad about it.
Yeah.
In the sense that like the impact of that film has already been impacted.
Yeah.
And we can go into it with a modern mindset and be like, it's good that we don't make this kind of movie anymore. I understand the context of it, but I can still enjoy it because, you know, it's just a movie. Like at the end of the day, it's like, it's a thing, you know, good to be aware of it. But at the same time, you can appreciate the art direction. You can appreciate the action. You can appreciate all that stuff without being like, oh, cancel Indiana Jones or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
because you can't cancel it. It's already happened.
It already happened. Yeah. But one thing to swing it around to some positives, I think that opening scene is some of the best Indiana Jones stuff. It's so good.
It's amazing.
Just that, like, it starts off like very almost James Bond-esque.
Yeah.
And I think that is intentional, like the white suit he's wearing and all that stuff. It's all very James Bond, and it escalates into that, like, car chase.
Yeah.
That's all incredible. I love everything about that.
It's really good. I do want to say, I think the movie does do a good job of having Indiana Jones kind of respect the Indian culture while they were there, because when they first meet like the leader of that like tribe, they bring him food,
right?
And he says something that's actually quite profound, because the lady that they're traveling with in Short Round, they're like looking at the food and like, ugh, this is disgusting, right? And Indiana Jones is like eating it, and he's like, you guys better fucking eat that. This is more food than they have in like a week.
Yeah.
And so, you know, while there is a lot of problematic stuff with it, I think Indiana Jones is really good about respecting cultures, because that's how he kind of grew up.
Yeah. Well,
it's not perfect.
No.
But it's, for being 1984.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Well, and I mean, again, credit where it's due. I think the movie at least does a good job of, like, there's no brown face in it.
No.
You know, which is something to be said for this time period where, you know, they went out of their way to find Indian actors to play the different parts, like especially the villain. I was reading about, you know, there was this long casting process, and they like really courted this specific actor because they really wanted him. I think all that is good, and I think that is to be respected. And you're right, there is a lot that's like, Indy is very respectful. You know, he even knows a little bit of the language. Like he understands their culture, and you do see how he starts moving towards the character he is in later movies.
Yeah.
But there is still the problem of the white savior narrative, where it's like this Indian village is just waiting around for, you know, a dude from California to come save them. Like, you know, it doesn't really stack up, I guess.
No. Well, and even in the opening scene, it's also very good, because the same deal. You know, they get all the they're Korean, right?
Chinese,
because
it's supposed to be in Shanghai.
That's right. And they get all these really fantastic Asian actors, and they do a phenomenal job. Yeah, for sure. And I think my favorite part of that opening scene is the fucking the gong.
Oh my god, down. It's so good.
It's so funny.
It's so good. Like, just that whole scene is amazing. Like, one thing I was really astounded by watching this is, you know, Spielberg has really evolved as a filmmaker into what he is now, but I think one thing he's always been really good at is staging. Yeah. And like the way that scene moves along, watching it now is so impressive, because there's so many things happening, but you're never lost. Yeah. Like, you know, the Chinese gangsters are trying to kill Indy. Willie is trying to get the diamond, and Indy's trying to get the antidote. And all of that is happening at once, but you're never really, and it's like all being switched around, and things are, you know, but you're never like lost. Yep. You're kind of always in the action, and that is so hard to do.
Oh yeah.
And Spielberg was literally doing it 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so there's times now where I'm like, all these other directors have no excuse.
Right, exactly. Like if he could do it then, y'all can do it now.
And I love the escalation where they jump out the window and then all of a sudden they're in the car with Short Round.
Yeah.
And there's like no explanation for like who this kid is or like what but he's all this. And I love the wood blocks on his feet to push the pedals. And there's a great line where, Willie has put the diamond and the antidote like in her bra.
Yeah.
And Indy is like trying to get it out of her shirt, and she's like, telling him like, "Oh, come on, not on not without a first date, Mister," or whatever. And Short Round turns around, and he's all, "Dr. Jones, no time for lovemaking. We gotta go."
Yeah. I love how just like Short Round is such a like good but also insane driver.
Yes, yeah.
And he doesn't put up with anybody's shit.
No, he runs a man over.
There's like the dude like with the
tuk-tuk,
yeah. And yeah, he just fucking runs him down.
Yeah, just flips that guy over the car.
To be fair, he gave him a warning.
He did give him a warning.
Him like 2 warnings.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, you asked for it.
I know. I love the moment where he's just like, all right, I'm running him over.
Yeah.
I think one of the things this movie is good about that they then evolve on in Last Crusade is the humor is so good.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of great moments where somebody will be like, "Hey, don't do this," and then they do it.
They immediately do it. Yeah.
Like there's in that car chase, there's a scene where I can't remember if it's Short Round or if it's Willie is like, "Hey, no shooting," and then he immediately starts shooting, and it's like the timing is just so perfect.
It's so good. The jumping ahead a little bit, that airplane scene, the comedy in that when the pilots jump out.
Yeah.
And Willie like looks in the cabin, goes, "Oh fuck," runs and grabs Indians, like trying to wake him up. And he's like, "Huh, are we there?" And she's like, "No," and like points. And he like walks in. He's like, huh.
And I love the line where she's like, "Do you know how to fly a plane?" And he's all, "No, do you?"
Yeah. And then Short Round's like, "No more parachutes." And then they jump out in a raft.
Which is great.
Which is really good. I will say Mythbusters tried it. That should not have happened the way it did.
Of course it wouldn't work, but it's a movie. Who cares?
Yeah, it's Hollywood.
It is Hollywood.
But yeah, the whole comedy of that scene was... Oh, and even before, like when they get on the plane and they shut the door to the plane, we see that the name of the Chinese gang is on the side. And it's very good.
It is good. There's just a lot of great comedic moments. And it's funny, too, because I feel like the movie starts very funny and then gets really, really, really dark.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden is, like, really funny again as soon as they come out of the palace.
Yeah.
I just love just that whole opening. It's just such a good... It's a great cold open. Just like a great way to throw us in the middle of this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the whole thing. Like, even the tension of the buildup between, when they're, like, doing the exchange, and he's got Willie held hostage, and they've got the gun pointed at it. Just, like, that whole thing is just great.
Yeah.
I would have watched a whole movie that was just that. But one thing I do find interesting about this one, as opposed to the other Indiana Jones movies, especially Last Crusade, when you watch this one, it is funny how 90% of it takes place in one location.
Yeah.
Which is different because, like, Raiders goes all over, freaking Egypt and what the Middle East. And then Last Crusade, I mean, they're like in, Germany, and they're in, wherever, like, it's all like, again, like just that country hopping.
Yeah.
But this one, they start in Shanghai, and then they end up in India, and then they just stay in India.
Yeah.
And they're not even just in India. They're in one palace for, like, most of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is just, I don't know. It's interesting for this kind of film.
Yeah. And because Last Crusade and Raiders are both centered around, like, Christian relics. And so it's interesting that, like, and I guess I don't know, it's because they were released kind of out of order.
Right.
It's strange to have like two Christian things sandwiching like a Eastern,
like a Hindu
thing. And so it is very interesting, and I'm wondering if the reason that part of it is that with the, I don't know. Well, I wonder if there's like a connection between them jumping around with the Christian one and then with the Hindu, but I don't know.
Well, from what I understand, one of the things with this movie is when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were first coming up with Indiana Jones, George Lucas was like, I need you for a trilogy. We are going to do 3 of these. And so Steven Spielberg was like, cool, that sounds great. It's George Lucas. He's always, got a plan or whatever. Yeah. Well, it turned out George Lucas did not have a plan. Well, and had only thought of the idea for the first one. And so when they went to go make the second one, they were like, hey, George, what's the story for this one? He was like, I don't know.
Yeah. There you go.
He was like, I got no idea. So they kind of had to freewheel with this one. And I can infer that from that, George Lucas then for Last Crusade had a lot more time to think of a good story.
Yeah.
Not that this one doesn't have a good story, but you can tell, I think, a little bit more of the slapdash nature of it. And I think part of that is they didn't want to just repeat the previous one.
Yeah.
And especially Spielberg was like, we need to set it in a different time because I don't want it to be the Nazis again, as the villain. Which is why it is that Hindu, cult, Shiva cult thing. Which, and again, if you take aside all the racism, it is an interesting idea. It is good to differentiate it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of based on this other movie from the 30s. It's called Gunga Din, and it's the plot is basically the same. It's about a Shiva cult that is sacrificing kids and whatever, and a guy has to stop them.
Yeah.
There's a lot more blackface in that one than in this one. But I don't know. I see what you're saying. It is funny that it's the Holy Grail and the
Ark of the Covenant.
Ark of the Covenant, but also this stone.
Yeah.
But then you can tell then again in Crystal Skull they tried to go different again with the Crystal Skull and the aliens and the Toltec kind of thing. But
and see, that's my big issue with 4 is that you're mixing aliens and this the Toltecs and stuff, Incan and stuff, and so it gives, I don't know, it to me it sort of validates those fucking weirdos that are aliens built the pyramid.
Yeah,
no, they didn't. You stupid bitch.
Yeah,
and so that's part of the biggest issue I have with 4 is that it strays so far from what Indiana Jones is or should be. Mm-hmm. Because you can do a movie set within that civilization, but just make it not aliens.
Yeah, I think that is part of the problem with Crystal Skull is they had this very fine line they were walking between adventure and fantasy.
Yeah.
Where it was it'd be mostly real world stuff and then there'd be one supernatural thing kind of at the end.
Yeah.
But I feel Aliens is a groundbreaking kind of notion.
Yeah.
And from what I've read of the 5th one, they introduced another kind of groundbreaking thing in it that kind of bothers me. But because even with the Ark of the Covenant, it is this big thing, but it also kind of leaves it open to interpretation of what it is.
Yeah.
And it's also not a world-ending thing.
Yeah.
The discovery of aliens would change civilization
forever. Yeah.
But it's they don't do anything with that idea.
Yeah.
Whereas the discovery of the Holy Grail, it's hey, that's cool for one guy, but also it kind of gets buried in whatever. So who cares?
Well, and also with aliens, everybody's oh damn.
Yeah.
With all of this Christian memorabilia and all this kind of stuff, the Christians will go, well, yeah, we knew that.
Right.
Because they believe that.
Yeah.
And sure, there are some people that do believe in aliens, but I don't know, it just feels different.
Yeah, and it is that, you're right, it does give into that conspiracy aliens, which, by the way, it is so funny to, like, the aliens built the pyramids thing is so funny to
hilarious.
Me. Because it's like, you seriously would rather believe that, like, extraterrestrials interfered on Earth rather than just believe that a bunch of brown people built a pyramid. Like, that you just can't, like, and it's not, people all the time are like, well, how'd they get the big blocks? It's like, have you ever used a pulley system
literally
in your life? That's all it takes.
Yeah. Like, have you done any research into history?
Yeah.
Because guess where math was invented?
Right.
The goddamn Middle East.
The Middle East and China. Yeah.
Those motherfuckers were doing it long before your white ass was looking at it.
It's not that complicated of physics to figure out. Like,
it's not.
Putting a rope under something makes things easier to lift. Shocker, because you're distributing the weight differently, right?
And add like a pulley system.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's even easier.
And they're like, how'd they get them? They found it. It's like, people can move stuff. They've been doing it for centuries. Yeah. Also, Egyptians had boats. Like,
the wheel had been invented.
Yeah.
You put a big 12-ton slab of, what was it, sandstone or granite or something on a wheel. All of a sudden, hey, look, you can move it. Yeah. Congratulations.
Or even like, you know, in the Mesoamerican like pyramids, they talk about like, oh, this Mayan pyramid was made to line up with the whatever. Like, obviously it must have been aliens. It's like, no. Also, the Mayans figured out like constellations and star patterns and the calendar. Like, they knew how to do math.
Like, surprise. The Mayans knew how to look up.
Yeah. Most of civilization figured that out.
Yeah. Everybody knew how to go, oh, look, stars. And then the human brain is so good about pattern recognition that everybody agreed, that looks like a fucking dude.
Yeah. But also, it's like, they didn't have Netflix. They had to do something. Right. So, they're like, I don't know, build a pyramid, you know?
And that's the perfect thing to do because it's going to take you forever to do it.
Also, it's amazing what you can do with slave labor. Like,
if you're not paying your workers, the things you can accomplish.
Yeah. Anyway, you're right. That it does give into that stupid. Yeah. But like with this, I don't know. Like with this movie, like I think what I like about it is the fantasy element is pretty. It's there, but it's pretty light.
It's loosey-goosey.
It's pretty loosey-goosey, and also this one in particular, it could be left up to interpretation, like whether the magic stuff is real or not.
Right.
Like, a guy pulls another guy's heart out.
Let's look past that.
We can look past that. But even with that, you could argue like, he pulled his heart out, but maybe he stayed alive for a few seconds, and you know, like.
Well, didn't he? Because he got put in the thing, and then he
but I'm like, conceivably that could happen, right? Yes, like your brain stays alive for a few minutes or whatever. It's not probable, but it's possible. Yeah. But the crystal skull kind of just like takes all that and shakes it up and throws it out the window. So
well, and the other thing that really gets me, and this is coming from somebody who grew up in fucking Los Alamos, I repeat, do not put yourself into a refrigerator if there is a nuclear bomb going off. No. You will die. You will be quite literally cooked alive in there. Okay, if a nuclear bomb is going off and you're in the blast radius, pray, because you're already dead.
Yeah, and also it's a movie, so like who cares? But also like when you see the fridge like flip like 3 or 4 times, when he comes out of that fridge, he should just be paste. Like
he should be.
All his bones would be broken.
Yes, he is dead. So if a nuke is going off, and you are in the blast radius, sorry, there is no saving you. No. You're done. Don't try to climb into anything. All of you boomers growing up in the 50s and 60s during the Cold War, and those drills that you had to go through, you had to hide under your desk in case of a nuclear explosion, that was dumb. Yeah. That was dumb. Like, when you look at the destruction of, like, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, like, there was quite literally, there are things called atomic shadows. Yeah. Where your essence is, like, etched onto the ground because of how insanely hot and radioactive the blast is. So yeah, go ahead, hide under your wooden desk. It ain't gonna do you any good.
No, and even if you do survive, all your skin's gonna fall off. So
Yeah, and if that doesn't happen, you're gonna die of radiation poisoning, and it's gonna be horrible.
So hurrah!
Ta-da! Anyway,
Speaking of the heart being pulled out.
oh yes,
One of the things with this movie is that it's really, really grim.
it's gross. It's really rough.
Yeah.
Because after ripping his heart out, they put him in like a metal cage, and then they just dump him into a volcano.
Yeah. For seemingly no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's human sacrifice or whatever,
but so here's my thing. What are they getting out of it? Because normally you sacrifice somebody and then the gods like give you a thing.
Because they already have the stones. I don't know why they gotta sacrifice people too.
Yeah. Like, is it like immortality? Is it like good like what are they getting out of this?
It's pretty vague. Because too, the villain's whole plan is he wants to get these 5 stones so that he'll be all powerful and like rule the world or whatever.
Great.
Incredibly vague. And he's got 3 of them.
Yeah.
But it's like not really said what he can do with those 3.
Yeah.
Like he can kind of put people in a trance unless they get hit in the head.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that, I guess. And he can kidnap some kids, but like I can do that. So
Anybody with 2 opposable thumbs can do that.
So I don't really know what those stones are doing for him.
It was very strange. Also, the biggest thing that I have trouble with this movie is the bugs.
Yes, there are a lot of bugs.
I don't like the bugs.
I do not like the bugs.
They're huge.
They're huge. There's also what is upsetting about this movie when you watch it now is you remember there was no CGI. So all those bugs are real bugs.
Yeah.
And so when like Willie is like covered in them, you're like, she's actually covered in bugs.
Yeah.
Which by the way, I read that she took a bunch of sedatives before she did that. And she was like, I'll tell you what, it helps.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, and the crew were all talking about how like they would go home and find like bugs in their hair and like awful.
No,
I have a ginormous hatred of centipedes. If I saw a centipede as big as the ones in this movie, I'm burning down my entire house just to make sure I get it.
Yeah, no, it was nightmare. Well, and I think the worst part for me is when Indy and Short Round were in that room that was gonna crush him.
Oh yeah.
And Willie had to like put her hand into that hole and pull the lever. I was like,
awful.
I'd be like, I'm sorry, guys, you guys are dead.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, get crushed. I don't know what to do. I'm not doing this.
I could not do that unless I had sedatives.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess if I was on a bunch of sedatives, I'd be like, whatever. A scorpion bit me,
The bugs and the horrible sacrificing. It's a lot. Well, and even going back to like that dinner scene,
so like, gross.
The monkey brains, they serve them inside the monkey's head. Yeah, like you can't put that shit in a bowl.
I know. Just all of that whole thing is
it's upsetting.
Like the thing that upsets me the most, like it's all kind of gross, but the like baby snakes. That really bugs me. I don't know why. That's just like, ugh, it makes my skin crawl.
It is really, really disgusting.
Also, I don't understand what the point of that dish is. It's just snakes coming out of another snake. Like, okay,
great, fantastic. Do you have to kill? Is it like I don't know.
But also, snakes are something where it's like, notoriously the world over, people don't eat snakes. Yeah. So I mean, I get it. It's gross and whatever, but it's also like, it's just a funny, like, I don't know. Yeah. And the big bug, like he's eating the big bug and stuff. Just so gross. No, it's I don't understand the point of it.
I know. When you said that the whole point of that scene or whatever was to like punk the white people. Yeah. It kind of makes sense why they chose to do all of that, but also just whip up some curry, man. Get some naan up in there. Yeah. Or something. Like, we don't need to see all this. No. You have good food.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It was, I don't know. There are, like I said at the beginning, watch at your own risk, especially if you're squeamish around like bugs and stuff like that, because it can. Ugh.
Well, one thing about this movie, the background, I mentioned it last week. This movie kind of invented the PG-13 rating. So this movie was released as PG, which, if you're not in the US, PG is like, it stands for parental guidance. So it basically means like, it's pretty much suitable for everybody, but really young kids should probably have a parent around, right? That's all that means.
Yeah.
But because it was released as PG, it meant a lot of parents took like their really young kids to go see it, and they were like shocked because, it's like got dudes pulling hearts out and human sacrifice and people being whipped and giant bugs and all kinds of just stuff that should not be seen by like super young kids, right?
Yeah.
And the MPAA, who's like the ratings board in the US, they got all kinds of complaints, like just letters from people and whatever. And Spielberg had also had another movie that he didn't direct it, he produced it, called Gremlins. You've heard of Gremlins.
Yeah, I've heard of Gremlins.
Gremlins, same thing. It was PG, but had all this stuff in it that was like super disturbing and whatever for kids.
You're right.
And so Spielberg actually wrote to the MPAA and was like, if you don't want this happening, you should create a new rating, right?
Yeah.
Like basically being like, this is on you guys, not me. I just make the movies.
Yeah.
And so 2 months after almost like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. 2 months after Temple of Doom, PG-13 was created.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And the first movie to carry PG-13 was Red Dawn, which is the movie about, China invading the US or whatever.
Gotcha.
Good movie. We'll talk about it at some point. So this movie kind of created that. And when you watch it now, you're like, yeah, this should probably be PG-13.
And what blows my mind is that before PG-13, it just went PG and then R.
And then R.
Which is like looking back at a lot of like older movies before like 1984.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those movies, I'm like, really? This is PG?
Right.
This is at least be PG-13.
I know. Yeah. Like movies like Spaceballs are PG.
Are you serious?
Yeah, technically.
What the fuck? Mm-hmm. Nah.
Yep.
See that? No. Spaceballs 100% should be. Honest to God, if you change a few things, that bitch is R.
Yeah. You take a few pieces of clothing off, and that's an R-rated movie. But yeah, I didn't have anything else to say about that. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So I forgot what I was going to say.
Nah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Short round, huh?
Sure. Oh, man, what a guy.
I love when he's wearing Indy's hat. I just think that's the best thing ever.
And I love that anytime somebody like refers to Indiana, like as like Indiana or India or whatever, he like turns to him, he's like, it's Dr. Jones. I'm like, yeah, it is, buddy. Yeah, it is.
Where is the short round spinoff?
Okay, here's the thing. I want that so bad.
I do too.
Okay, I just was thinking about this while we were chatting. Why the fuck did we get Shia LaBeouf?
Yes.
When we could have just
had short round.
Just short round again, just older.
Yeah.
Have him take up the Indiana Jones mantle.
I know. Well, that's the thing. So he's not appeared in any Indiana Jones media since.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in like the Lego game and stuff, but it's just crazy to me because it's like Ke Huy Quan, he's had like this really weird career because he was in this movie. This was his first like big role. Mm-hmm. And then he was in The Goonies, which is another huge like 80s blockbuster. But then he was kind of in some like smaller things, and as he got like older, he struggled to get roles, right? And so starting in like the 2000s, he really was only working like behind the scenes. Like he was a fight choreographer on the first X-Men. And he was a fight choreographer on this movie called The One with Jet Li. And he was doing a couple of things, and then he just like retired. And so he didn't do anything for like ever. And then in, I think it was like 2019, he decided, I'm going to try my hand at acting again because he had seen Crazy Rich Asians. And he was like, oh, the industry has changed a lot for like, Asian American actors. And so he his first acting job back was Everything Everywhere All at Once, which he won an Oscar for.
Yeah.
And he's the first Asian American man to win Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
I think he's the first Asian American man to win any Best Acting award.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I don't understand, like, but it speaks to that thing of, for a long time, and still now, it is so hard for Asian American, especially men, but men and women, to get leading roles.
Yeah.
Like, Hollywood executives just won't greenlight a movie if it's not led by a white dude or a,
Yeah.
and you know, like African Americans to a lesser extent, but it feels like there's this particular bent against Asian American actors.
Yeah.
And he really felt it, the poor guy. But now that he's back and he's, you know, got this star power, I don't understand.
I know.
Like, it would work perfect as like a Disney Plus series, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you could even do like what they did with the new Indiana Jones movie, which again I haven't seen, but you know, you have it set in 2 time periods, right? Where you get an actor to play a young Short Round, you know, like as a young adult, and then you get Ke Huy Quan to play middle-aged Short Round, and you have them meet in the, you know, just do something with it. Like, it's crazy that he hasn't been asked to do that.
I know. Well, and you know, and if you haven't seen this, you have to go look at least pictures or something. But during the Oscars, Harrison and Ke Huy Quan, they like saw each other and met, and it is the cutest goddamn thing.
It's amazing
in the world.
Yeah.
Like they are really good friends.
Yeah.
And so it's just a bummer that, you know, we only got him for the one movie 40 years ago.
Especially because he'd be so interesting as a character.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to, like, you know, Marion is great because, you know, whatever, and fucking whatever's Mutt Williams, whatever his son's name is. But it's like, you know, Short Round, in a way, you know, we don't know what happened in between this and Raiders, but there's some story to mine there of, you know, maybe he feels abandoned by Indy, maybe he feels, you know, thrown into this life of violence and whatever. Like, there's something there that they haven't done anything with, and it's just a shame because it's like they've returned to all these other characters except for him. Yeah. So I don't understand what the holdup is.
Or do they still keep in touch, and maybe Short Round got into, you know, history and archaeology because of Indy, and so he starts doing all of his own sort of things in, you know, China maybe. Yeah. And we just get a Indiana Jones, but it's Short Round in China. It would be so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. So strange.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future. We'll see. Hopefully. Hey, he's doing good now. He's going to be in a movie coming out next year, I think. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. But it's directed by the guy... not directed by... It's produced by one of the guys who did John Wick. Oh, and it's like a action, family, comedy, drama thing.
Oh, okay.
It looks good. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent.
I'm trying to think if I have something else I was going to say. I don't have anything specific.
Yeah.
What else? Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think we touched on pretty much everything.
Yeah. And I will say too, if you're interested in like the background of Indiana Jones as a character, go back and listen to our other Indiana Jones episode, because I did a lot more detailing of it then. And I'm going into this assuming you have some of that knowledge, so but it's a good one.
Yeah.
Still not my favorite, but
no, it's definitely third on the list.
Yeah.
But I definitely will watch it on like 4.
And it's a very it's just a watchable movie.
Yeah.
It's so good to get into. Yeah. You just sit there and just bask in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you know, last episode we watched Alan Quartermain and the bitches or whatever
it was called.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, God.
Watching it is kind of interesting to watch these two side by side, because Alan Quartermain is so goddamn boring.
Oh my god.
Like I know we said it before, but when I was watching Indiana Jones, I was like, man, that other movie was just like
astoundingly boring.
Mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And like Alan Quartermain is such like an uninteresting character.
Oh my god, yeah.
That I don't care if he lives or dies.
No.
I literally don't care about him at all. Right? With Indiana Jones, like he's so iconic.
Yeah.
He's got his whip, his hat, his like even his bag, I would say, is one of the most iconic pieces of his entire ensemble. And he's just so like mysterious, and like we get a little bit of like his like backstory in Last Crusade,
right?
But we still don't know everything about him.
No,
and it's just Alan Quartermain. I'm like, I literally don't care about you. Go away.
Yeah, and it's like the thing I was talking about before. Spielberg is so good at making every scene interesting.
Yeah.
He's really good. Like the thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough with Spielberg, and he's, often considered like the greatest director of all time for a reason. His direction is so it's good to the point of where you don't even notice it unless you're paying attention, but it's so subtly, I want to say brilliant, but like just the way he stages things. Like somebody will be, the foreground will be interesting, but the background is also interesting. Like somebody will be doing something right in front of you, but then everything behind it is amazing. Like, and like I said, that opening scene, like it's so colorful and vibrant, and there's so much happening, but you're never lost in it. Like you always understand what's going on. And I think one of his skills is just that you're always locked into the frame, right? Yep. It's like he doesn't move the camera a lot. It's usually locked down, but he does such a good job of everything on I'm talking with my hands and I knocked the mic over.
Yeah.
He just does such a good job of moving everything within the frame.
Yeah.
That you'd never notice like the camera, I guess. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. Like,
yeah. I was thinking about Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Raiders.
Yes.
And they were like, they're in this like market.
Yeah.
Or something. And that too is like, it is just full of color and life. And it doesn't feel like you're watching like a fictional movie. It looks like you're watching almost like a documentary.
Yeah.
And because it feels so real.
Yeah.
Because all of the extras and all of the people in that square are just so naturally going about everyday life that it doesn't feel like acting.
Right.
And so, yes, while you're watching Indiana Jones and, his sidekicks, go through this market trying to go to whatever, you're also invested in like all of the people that they're running into.
Right.
And it's just so good.
It is good. And I think one of the problems with like, because Spielberg's been around long enough now that other people have tried to imitate his style.
Yeah.
I think what they don't understand is like when you're watching like Jaws, for instance, or this or whatever, and this is going to sound sort of like an insult, but he's never doing anything like groundbreaking with focus or with whatever. But what he really understands is how to place everyone in a way that your eye is always drawn exactly where it needs to be, right? Yeah. You are looking at what he wants you to look at.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that doesn't feel artificial. It feels natural. It feels like, he understands human drama very well, but what he gets even more is movies are a visual medium, and he's good at the visuals. Like he's just so naturally good at that we take we take it for granted now.
Yeah.
Like like so many movies now don't understand that. Like they're trying so hard to do with like play with focus and color and shadow and stuff. And he does do a little bit of that, but he's more focused on, can you see everything?
Yeah.
And is what you're looking at interesting?
Yeah.
And I think that is an underrated skill.
Oh, it is. He keeps it simple. I think, kind of going back to what you were saying about like people trying to imitate what he's doing, I think they're trying to overcomplicate things.
Yes.
Because they think that he's, doing all these crazy things.
Right.
But in reality, yeah, he's just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Like he realizes I don't need to overcomplicate this shot. I don't need to like do all these extra special things. I have these people who are capable and know how to do their job. We have really good editors, and I know what I'm doing as a director.
Right.
That I can just set the scene, roll cameras, and everything will just do it itself.
Exactly.
He's not trying to do the work of everybody. He's just doing his job and putting the trust in his crew and cast to do their job.
Exactly.
I think that's what makes a good director, is having trust in everybody you're working with.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you don't trust them, then you're having to do their job and shit falls apart.
Yeah. Or in the case of Alan Quartermain, nobody's doing a job.
Nobody actually knows where they
Nobody's even on the movie set. They've already moved on to the next movie.
Yeah.
In fact, they've made 4 in the time we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, good movie.
Fantastic.
So, Grayson.
Yes.
What would you rate this movie out of 10?
7.
Okay. All right.
7.
That's fair.
Just a solid 7.
I see that.
Yep.
Do you have a specific reason?
Well, a lot of the stuff that we touched on, the stereotyping and the ickiness of the depiction of Indian cultures, and then the bugs, and I don't know. It is an Indiana Jones movie, but it just doesn't. There's moments where I'm like, this doesn't really feel like an Indiana Jones movie right now. It is still wonderful, and I still will watch it.
Yeah.
But I recognize it as a product of its time, and so it has a few faults that I'm glad we don't do anymore.
Right.
So, we have to recognize those faults and point them out and talk about them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree.
7. It's still, Harrison Ford, absolute eye candy. Fantastic actor. Short Round, incredible character, played by an even more incredible actor.
Yeah.
The story is fairly interesting to keep you engaged.
Right.
Action is on point with pretty much all of the other Indiana Jones. We get plenty of uses out of the whip.
Oh yeah.
And we get the classics, swinging down and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, 7.
Okay. I'm going to do a rare diversion, and I'm going to say an 8.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I think maybe it's like after we watched Alan Quartermain, it was like it's like I just walked through the desert and I was presented with an ice cold glass of water.
Yeah.
It was like freshly frosted, and it was just like
a little bit of condensation.
And it could just be complete contradiction.
Yeah.
But I was so relieved to watch this movie.
Oh no, so was I.
I was like, this is a movie. Like, this is fucking.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air.
It is so. It's like an oak tree, this movie. It's so solidly made.
Yeah.
And again, like everything you said is true, but I just can't help. It's one of those movies I can't help but enjoy myself watching it.
Yeah. Oh, same.
And for all the shit I flung at it today, rightly so, I still just love it. I just can't help it. It's just like, it's my childhood. I can't help but see the scenes in the Lego game.
Oh God, same.
Like it's just
yeah. It's and once during those big heroic moments, you hear Indy's theme play.
The theme,
goosebumps.
The John Williams theme is unbeaten.
I know. John Williams actually the GOAT.
He is. But yeah, that's for me.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I got. Well, that brings us to everybody's second favorite part of the show.
Yep.
It's a section called Editor's Picks.
Hell yeah. Nailed it.
What you got? Or do you need thinking time?
No, I got it. Men in Black.
Oh, good choice.
I was at work and we have a TV in the break room and people will just put on whatever.
Yeah.
And it plays. And I walked in and there was the first Men in Black.
Oh,
and I was sitting there. I was like, damn, this is a really good, I need to rewatch this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you haven't seen Men in Black, do yourself a huge favor and go watch that absolute masterpiece of a movie.
Yes, absolutely.
It is like peak, Will Smith.
Yes.
Peak.
Before he went crazy.
Yeah. It is peak Will Smith. It's like Men in Black and Independence Day are like some of his greatest works ever.
Absolutely.
So the comedy is incredible. The stories are amazing. And there are these movies that they somehow actually make you kind of think about your place in the universe.
Yeah.
They're just so well made.
I agree.
So yes, Men in Black.
Good choice. Sorry, I'm stretching.
You're good. Oh, big stretch.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good choice. I love the first Men in Black.
It's so good.
It's one of the best movies ever.
Yeah.
My pick. It's a movie that is hopefully still out in theaters, so you can probably go check it out. It's called Monkey Man.
Yes.
It is written, directed by, and starring Dev Patel.
Wow.
Who is probably most famously the lead actor in Slumdog Millionaire.
Never seen it.
Or The Green Knight.
Nope.
He's been around.
The name sounds familiar.
He's an English Indian actor. It's a movie set in India. Like I said, he wrote, directed, and is starring in it. But that is not, even though that is normally the indicator of a bad movie.
Yeah.
This is in fact a very good movie.
Yeah.
It's got great, brutal action in it. It's a very interesting story. It's beautifully shot. It's just a great debut for him, like directorial debut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks great on a big screen. If you get the chance to go see it, definitely go see it.
I want to see it so bad. It looks so good.
It is also out now on like video on demand, so you can rent it at home. But I would recommend if you can go see it in a theater, go do it. It's just great. It's good. Good score. Amazing soundtrack. Like some real bangers on that soundtrack.
Really?
No spoilers, but it does feature a song from a band that I really enjoy, which is the Indian folk metal band Bloody Wood.
Very good.
They get a little look in towards the end of the movie. So look forward to that. Also go listen to their debut album that came out a couple years ago. It's nothing but bangers.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, that's my pick.
I gotta go see that movie.
It's good. We'll cover it on here.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for it to come out to like either streaming or rent for cheap instead of the $20 or whatever it costs right now.
Lord.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So that pretty much concludes the show.
Twite.
And now that the show is over, what should the people listening do?
Go give us like 5 stars and shit.
Yeah.
Thumbs up on YouTube and then rate us on any of the ones that don't have thumbs up or stars or whatever.
Yeah.
Comment, interact with things, share, like, comment.
Yeah.
You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Viva La Action. We have an email. You can just email in and say hi.
Yes.
Or you can give us recommendations. Speaking of recommendations, there is also a Google form.
There is.
That you can fill out, giving us a recommendation. Make sure it is purely action. If you don't know why I keep having to specify this, go back a few episodes and you'll learn why.
You'll find out. It's good fun.
It's very fun. We got stickers.
We do have stickers. Still got plenty.
Yeah. If you want a sticker, just let us know and we'll fucking mail it to you. You don't have to pay us a damn thing. It's a sticker.
It's a sticker. I'll put it in an envelope.
Yeah.
And I'll send it to you.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want a sticker, just let us know how many and
we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like the show, share it with a friend.
Yep.
A colleague.
A dog.
Your parents.
A pigeon you find on the street.
A woman in an old folks home. Yep. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a woman. It could be a man.
Could be a man.
Or a non-binary old person.
Yep. Whatever. Just share it with any living creature.
Blast it over the loudspeaker at your place of business.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You'll find Grayson running cross country through the mountains of Sri Lanka, and you'll find me roaming the $5 DVD section at a torn down Blockbuster.
There it is.
That's gonna do it for this episode.
Hell yeah. Bye-bye.
Nice.